Hello and welcome, everyone. We're excited to have you with us today. I'm Jeff Sullivan, Director of Marketing here at StarTech.com. First and foremost, I'd like to thank you for spending your valuable time with us for today's topic, which you can see on the screen is expert tips for managing headless servers and other unique KVM applications. On the webinar with me today is an expert from the StarTech product side of things. Aaron, why don't you tell us who you are and what you do?
Thanks, Jeff. Hello, everyone. My name is Aaron Rabina, and I am a product manager at StarTech.com for anything and everything KVMs. I also am the product manager for networking devices and even screwdrivers.
It makes me laugh every time you say that. The screwdrivers are actually cool, and I still need you to hook me up. That automated kit needs to be in my own toolkit. Okay, everyone, before we get into the meat of today's topic, just like to share a few housekeeping items. First up, we'd like to keep this experience for you interactive, interesting. So there's a couple of polls, but more importantly, there's a Q&A where I will ask Aaron your questions. Also, if you stick to the end, I'm going to ask Aaron to share with us either his first job or his first car, and those are always interesting. So the Q&A, you simply put it in the question and answer box. We're watching those, and I will ask Aaron live here at the end. And then there is a survey. So once you disconnect today, you'll be asked what you thought. Was our content technical enough or too far in the weeds? Was this what you're expecting? We also ask what other type of topics that you'd like to see. And this particular topic about KVMs and even the last webinar topic came straight out of a customer idea. So we are watching or listening. And then for those of you that joined on a replay at some point in the future and you want to ask questions, you can always hit us at community@startech.com. And really anyone, I don't know if you know, but we have an IT pro community where we're dedicated to those how-to, what if, I'm seeing this, what do you recommend for that type of questions from us and your peers. So hit us at community.startech.com. There's three main things we're going to talk about today. First up, we'll cover how to troubleshoot or configure or access a headless server with a laptop. And we'll go into some interesting use cases for that. Then we'll get into remotely controlling a computer over a secure point-to-point fiber connection. And then we've got some other interesting, real-world environments that might help the IT pro in their day-to-day and simplify it with use of a KVM or interesting KVM configurations. All right, so before I get to Aaron, I'd like to do a little bit of table setting. Not everyone on the call today may understand what we mean or be familiar with a KVM device. A KVM stands for keyboard video mouse. And what it does is, as shown here on the diagram, it allows you to access more than one system. There's a laptop on one side and a computer on the other. Maybe it's a bank of servers, maybe a lot of different configurations, but it allows you to use one keyboard, one mouse, and maybe a monitor or two or four across multiple systems. And we'll get into some interesting use cases for that. But that's enough with the basics. Now let's get to the detail. So Aaron, we've got you here today is to talk about creative ways to manage a headless server. And what we mean by a headless server is maybe, you've got a server in a wiring closet that doesn't have maybe a rack mount KVM in it, or you've got a kiosk that you need to manage, or an ATM, right? There's a lot of different reasons an IT pro could need to get access to a system. Aaron, tell us about an interesting way that an IT pro would go about that.
Will do. Well, as you can see on the screen, we have you see our no-con family of crash card adapters. It's funny that we call these crash card adapters, but they actually get rid of the use of a crash card. Simply with a laptop and this adapter, you can have access to your headless server, kiosk, or ATM, wherever it may be. The real beauty of this is a small adapter. As you can see on the screen, it's the size of your hand. So you can easily bring this anywhere you want along with the laptop. The one pictured actually has a rugged rubberized housing, so you don't have to worry about dropping it or dinging it, and protect the asset to wherever the headless server is. This can work with almost any laptop. So the laptop can be running Windows, Linux, or Mac. And all you need to do on the laptop is just download the user interface that is available on the StarTech.com website. On the server side, this can work with any server OS as long as it has a VGA and USB connection. And even one of our crash card adapters has a PS2 connection for those legacy devices.
There's the Wayback Machine, PS2. I mean, you'd be surprised. Maybe you've got an older server that's running a legacy application. I mean, I know, early in my career, I could have used one of these, and there were lots of instances of you'd be surprised at what servers, were how old with older connection technologies. So how, you talked about getting rid of the crash cart and just using this to connect your laptop. How is it powered? Do you need a PDU?
No power supply needed. This is actually the definition of portability. It is bus powered. So simply connect it to the laptop, and the laptop can power the adapter with no power supply necessary. This also comes with a bunch of convenient features for the IT professional, bidirectional file transfer, drag and drop files, scripts, or even event logs from the laptop from the server to the laptop. You can also do video capture to capture any errors that happen, built-in scaling so that you can adjust the resolution, especially for those really old devices, as well as have access to virtual keys and macros for those pre-programmed controls and those hotkeys.
Excellent. At Dell World 2022, which incidentally, we're going to be at Dell World 2023. If anyone wants to come by and see one of these or talk to me, we'll be there. But at Dell World 2022, we had, this was easily the favorite product that we had on display of quite a few. And one person even ordered it in front of us. All right. Well, that takes us, I think that's a good summation. I mean, I also think, capturing video, being able to pull down an event log or, transfer over a script, I could have used that in the past as well. So let me put up the first poll and let's see if the audience finds this useful. So how do you manage servers in your environment? And there's a few choices here. There's maybe you already have a USB crash cart adapter type setup, or you're using a crash cart or with a keyboard and mouse, maybe a rack mount KVM. Maybe it's just not something that you would find useful in your particular environment. So I'll give you, it looks like there's already several people that have responded to this, and I'll post the results here in just a minute so you can see how your peers responded. But while you're doing that, and just like Malcolm just posted in the chat, don't forget, you can ask your questions to Aaron. So if you post them in the Q&A, right there in that box, we will ask Aaron at the end. All right. Looks like a lot, at least, no, there's still a few questions coming in. It's interesting. Actually, I'm not terribly surprised. But it looks like I'll go ahead and end it, share the poll, put it up on the screen. So 45% of our audience typically uses rack-mounted KVM consoles, and I could see that. We'll talk about one of those later. And then, of course, the crash cart, I get that. And then 36% of the audience not applicable, but nobody's using a crash cart adapter. So maybe we'll get some of those put out in the toolkit. Okay. Let's get into topic number 2. And this is something else Aaron wanted to talk with you about. I didn't even know that we had this sort of thing until I got to StarTech. How to remotely control any computer securely over a point-to-point fiber connection. And you think there's a lot of interesting use cases for this. And I was talking with one of our lead technical people, and imagine like a studio where sound of a fan in a computer cannot be interfering with operations. You have the ability to put it far away and still have direct access. Right. So tell us a little bit more about this, how a KVM or how you might remotely control a computer here.
Will do. Well, what you see here is a KVM extender kit over fiber connection. We call this a kit because this comes with both the transmitter and receiver, as well as with two multi-mode SFP transceivers. With these SFP transceivers, you can get up to 984 range between the receiver and transmitter. So you gave a really good example about noisy environments, but if you also need access or frequent access to a machine that is in a secure location and it's very inconvenient to go back and forth, you can simply be at a desk with a monitor, a keyboard, and mouse up to hundreds of feet away and still have access to that secure environment. The good thing about this KVM extender kit is that it supports HDMI extension, specifically 4K 60 and 444 imaging sampling. Those are just for all those high resolution cases like security cameras and digital signage. And the receiver also comes with a 3-port USB hub, just so you can connect more peripherals and have that same extension as well.
Excellent, excellent. And you mentioned that high image capability, or that 444 image sampling, chroma sampling. Another situation was like a CAD design studio where you need a high powered desktop, but maybe the designer doesn't want that desktop right next to their desk. This sounds like it could be complicated for an IT pro to implement. Like, what does it take? How do you deploy it?
Not complicated at all, actually. Pretty much the kit comes with almost everything you need. You just need to supply your own fiber optic cable, but you can easily connect it to the included SFP transceivers. There's also no software required or no network settings that need to be configured. The one convenient feature of this is that it comes with open SFP plus slots. So you can trade out the multi-mode transceivers that come with it with single mode and get up to 1,600 feet of range.
Makes sense. And I guess I was kind of fixating on controlling one computer with those examples from a large distance. What about controlling multiple computers across that same secure fiber connection?
Well, you can also connect a KVM switch. In this case, it would have to be HDMI, and you can control up to 2, 4, how many ports with pending what KVM switch you connect to this KVM extender.
Okay, makes sense. All right, let's put up poll number 2. This will be the only other poll on the webinar today. What might you use a KVM extender for? Or what is the main reason you're putting one in your environment? And there's a few options here. Like we talked about, that noise control, or maybe convenience or security. I think about accessing servers over the internet with remote management, or PuTTY or Telnet or other insecure methods. But also, like, this is more about what we're talking about here, is that secure, right? We're talking about accessing the server directly. This is not necessarily over the network. So our audience looks like we've got about half of those that have participated so far. I'll leave that up. I have seen a couple of questions come in the Q&A, but we could use more. I'd love to give Aaron some hard questions. So put those in the Q&A box. All right. I think that's been enough time. Go ahead and end the poll, get back to the show. Here's the results. Hopefully you can see that on the screen. I know for those in the replay, you can't. That's why I read them off. Convenience was number 1 at 62% as to why you might use a KVM extender. I agree. Like, if you've got a box in another room and you want to access it early and often, Number 2 was not a requirement. Number 3 was for security. And you think like maybe like a financial trader. In a previous job I had, we had a situation where we wanted servers behind a secure locked room for backups and protection and all that fun stuff, but having that secure access would still be key. And then other and none for noise control. We don't have any audio engineers out there today. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and stop with the poll and moving on. Okay, this is the KVM lightning round, Aaron, and we mentioned rack mount KVM consoles, which was the #1 response to the KVM usage in our poll earlier. What can you tell us about what's on the screen here?
Alrighty. Well, we did see a majority of people use a rack mount console. It's a good thing that StarTech.com has quite a bit of rack mount consoles available. What we see here is a 8-port rack mount console with a 19-inch LCD screen. So connect up to 8 computers or servers easily with this rack mount console that can be easily installed into a server rack. And this also has USB and PS2 ports for you to connect those peripherals.
Makes sense. Yep. I think that's the most common way that many of us have used a KVM. What else you got?
All right. This next one here, this is a 4-port KVM switch. The beauty of this is that you can connect up to 2 4K 60 DisplayPort monitors and share them across 4 computers. So you get that high crisp resolution and you get to share keyboard, monitors and mouse with those 4 computers while having access to that 4K 60.
That's a lot of 4K 60 across a lot of. I actually have one of these. I'm using it on the webinar today. I have a home computer in Alienware that I want to use my same monitors and keyboard and everything with. And so I've got the 2-port version of this. Okay, what about the Squid? That's what the internal name for that one with the included wires is.
Thanks for calling it the Squid, but it's probably called that because of all the cables that you see there. But that's the beauty of this KVM switch. This is a 2-port KVM switch, and you can connect up to 2 computers. And the convenience is it comes with all the cables you need to connect to both of those computers. The added benefit is this also passes 4K 60 through the HDMI port. So connect a 4K 60 HDMI monitor and conveniently on your desk, share keyboard, 4K monitor, and mouse with those 2 computers. The other great thing about this is it's very small and compact. So say it's a hoteling station, you can easily have this set up, and it's also bus powered. So as soon as you connect your laptop or your computers, it'll power the switch and you can use it right away.
Okay, thank you. And then we've got one more. What's unique or different about this type of KVM?
So this one, we'd like to call it a hybrid KVM switch. It's a hybrid because there is one port that is a USB-C connection and a second port that is a USB-A plus a traditional HDMI video port. This allows for a user to connect a USB-C enabled laptop as well as a older PC or even an older laptop. That's why we called it a hybrid. And this one, the good thing is you can also connect a 4K monitor and share keyboard, video, and that 4K monitor with the laptop and the traditional old PC.
Makes sense. All right, cool. We're going to post a link here in the chat where you can go for more KVMs. I don't know, I forget what we're at, but there's several pages worth of interesting KVM solutions that you can check out on our website. But also, I'd like to point out that there's some products that we've got coming that we couldn't talk about in today's broadcast, but we will be in the very near future. And the way that you can make sure you're up to date on those is by opting into that IT Pro newsletter that we send out a month. That's one of the key ways that we do new product information, right? I mean, of course, we're going to have blogs and videos and the YouTube channel and all that fun stuff. But if you want to get that alert on, in your email inbox. That's the best way. And if you're at Dell World, I should have 1 or 2 of those on display this year as well, and some of the other events that we're doing later this year. Okay. And by the way, community.startech.com, or the email address community@startech.com, is another place that you can join in the conversation or subscribe to those type of conversations. Chances are, though, if you're on this webinar, you probably got the webinar invite because you are opted into our communication. So likely you're going to hear about the things I'm talking about. Okay, so quick reminder: you still have a chance, to put your questions in the Q&A box. I see that there's a couple there. We're going to get to those here in just a second. So Aaron, I hope you're ready. I hope the team that's helping me watch the chat is ready. So I'm gonna scroll to the part where I've got the questions to answer. On the back end here, we've got a live document that we share, so I can see those as we're going along. So a little behind the scenes as to how we work. All right, let's get to it. For the audience, by the way, I appreciate you posting in these questions, and we'll get to a couple of personal questions that we talked about as well. All right. So it's more of a question than a comment, but I think I think this makes sense. This customer says we don't have any PS2 servers anymore, but all of our servers still use analog VGA and not HDMI. I think for especially the NoteCon, that crash card adapter we were talking about earlier, I think there's a comment here, and definitely on, some of the other KVM options. What would you say, Aaron?
So the good thing about those NoteCon family is that we can actually use an HDMI to VGA adapter, so you can connect it to a HDMI server or machine. As well as that, you can also have a DVI or even a DisplayPort adapter. All of those are actually available with StarTech.com as well.
Makes sense. All right, for question 2, Aaron, do you also use a KVM for personal use like me?
I do, at least to share my work laptop and my personal desktop. Actually, I also bought one for my wife, where it works at home as well, so remotely. So she has a USB-C laptop, as well as an older laptop for her personal use. So we actually use that hybrid KVM at home as well.
All right, cool. Yeah, I don't know, I've used KVMs my whole career. Most of the time it was rack mounts. I think my favorite thing about the I know we're mostly talking about KVMs for the IT pro and that, kind of that back office infrastructure type situations, but which they support hotkeys as well. But my favorite thing is I can just hit Control-1 or Control-2, and I can quickly switch between computers without taking my hand off the keyboard. I know that's pretty table stakes for KVMs, but that is my favorite personal feature about it. All right, let's here's another question. What kind of KVM can be paired with that fiber HDMI extender?
All righty, so with that KVM extender that we just showed, that is an HDMI or 4K HDMI extender. So any KVM switch that has HDMI ports can be used. StarTech.com has 2-port 4K versions, 4-port 4K versions. Even the Squid one you still see on the screen, that can also be paired with the HDMI or the KVM extender.
All right, and then we got one more question. I think it's similar to what we talked about a minute ago, but can a KVM crash card adapter be used with a server that only has an HDMI video port?
Yep, like the first question I answered, you just simply need a VGA to HDMI adapter.
chances are, I think that's it. For those of you out there, you probably know us for it, but chances are that, you realize, or you run into our brand because, we've got those legacy to latest. And I kind of feel like there's probably an adapter for that, whether you're connecting to HDMI or VGA or PS2 or USB, whatever, right? Like that's an interesting way to implement that. If for some reason the KVM didn't have the right connection, we probably have an adapter that could get you there. Okay. All right. Well, I appreciate everyone. Here's one more comment from an audience member. My desktop looks like NASA with all the additional monitors, and laptops. We were looking at a SpaceX launch recently that had, one of their control room things that had like 19 monitors and keyboards and mice. And that was the first thing that Malcolm and I were discussing, is it looks like they could use some KVMs in those particular environments. So if you're an IT pro at SpaceX, give us a call. Okay, that brings us to a close, but I got to ask that question, Aaron. You got to tell us, what was your first job or first car? Your pick.
Alrighty, I think I'll go with the first car. This does lead to a funny story, but my first car was a Honda Civic that was a standard or a manual stick drive. So when I went to pick it up with my dad, I only really had about 2 hours of experience driving stick. Drove a couple meters, or I guess a couple feet in the car, and my dad said, "No, I'm driving the car home." So I didn't even get to be the first one to drive my car when I picked it up. So that was a pretty humbling experience, but quickly picked it up later, and now I only drive stick. So
I had a similar experience, although it wasn't my first car, but I had a date that night, and it was super important that I learned to drive that car. And I did stall out a few times, but it was fine. Okay, so one last question, and I can answer it because one of our technical people gave the answer. So I don't want to put you too much on the spot, Aaron, but and I appreciate everyone that's posted these questions. If all of my servers have analog VGA, would I need to have an adapter for each of these, or each of the servers? And one of our technical people, like I said, gave me the answer on the back end, and that's no. The crash card adapter has VGA natively and will work out of the box with any VGA server directly. So awesome questions. I appreciate everyone for popping those in and making this a little bit more engaging and interactive. And like I said, if you've got other questions about this topic or any of the things that the cool, unique ways that we're making the job easier for the IT pro, hit us at community.startech.com or that email address. Share it in the survey when you disconnect from this webinar. Aaron, I appreciate your time today. Thanks for being here.
No, thank you, Jeff, and thank you everyone for coming and listening to me talk.
Excellent. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate it, and look forward to hearing your thoughts on how today went and what we can do in the future. Take care and have a great day.